Hi everyone, this is Philippa at Flipcat Craft. Welcome back to my channel. If you saw my last video, you would have seen that I had some digital printables that I had been working on. The exciting news is that I now have an Etsy store. The link is in the description below. And I have a few items, the ones that I showed last time, which includes my digital collage papers, the digital add-ons, which is like ephemera packs, and the faux postage, but also some fussy cuts. So I've got some butterflies and some dragonflies. And the reason I'm mentioning those in particular is I've got some friends of the family who bought them and then to support me, so thank you so much, and then said, what do we do with them? So I'm going to do a quick tutorial, and when I say quick, it's within the limitations of having a broken arm, so apologies. And I'm going to show how to make some quick cards because they wanted to know how to do it for their kids. So we're going to show some fussy cutting, and we're going to show some really quick intro card making today. And for those of you who already know how to do this, hopefully, you'll be able to maybe show this to other people who want to know how to get started, but also just some fresh ideas, and also how to do basic card making when you don't have all the tools that we have when we've been card making for a long time. Anyway, I'm going to get started. So when you get a PDF or a JPEG of one of these, what you do is you print it. So I have several different print qualities. The original ones I did were on this kind of paper, which is 120 GSM. It's slightly matte and a bit flexible. And then more recently, I've got, now that I'm working out how to use my printer, I've got some 200 GSM cardstock. It's definitely, it's not really thick cardstock, but it's definitely got more weight to it than the one that I had previously. So to fussy cut, and this is something that those who are asking your kids can do, all you do is you just get your scissors and you cut around the butterflies, or if you have the dragonflies, cut around the dragonflies. And I made them in rainbow colors, and there's one of each color, but obviously you can print it out so you have as many as you need. And I wanted it to be bright and colorful, but if you have a look, there's sort of a more muted tone with the sepia colors and some yellows, and then more pastel colors. So there's 3 different shades of dragonflies, so brights, pastels, and kind of more muted tones, although I guess the purple's not, but and then the same with the butterflies. We've got that's kind of a bit more lighter, not quite pastels, but pastels at that end, I guess. Brights, and then this one is, it's the pastels again, but it's got an overlay of it's a linen texture, so the colors are slightly different, but it's also textured when you print it as well. So it's not really different, but it's different enough that I thought it made it interesting to look at. Anyway, so you pick up your scissors and, you can cut it straight off. I generally cut a strip of 4 so that I get one of each color shade in, and it, as you go down the page, they get darker, more intense. And I've made it that way all the way through. So, for example, if you want brights, you just cut off that strip, and then you've got the 4. If you want all one shade in one color family, you can cut that way, get all your pinks or all your blues. And yeah, and now when I cut, as I'll show you in a minute, I go around the head, but I cut off the antennae because, you can't have everything. And then you just cut around it. This is what's called fussy cutting. Now, as I've mentioned previously, I love fussy cuts. I don't really enjoy fussy cutting, but it's one of those necessary evils for the kind of stuff that I like. And I was purchasing a lot of fussy cuts pre-made. They get a bit pricey over time. I mean, not really. I mean, they're cardboard, they're pre-cut for you. The craft companies that make them pre-cut have machinery that does it for you, and so it's kind of cheap. It might be $5 or $6 a packet, but when you use a lot, it all adds up. And then for a few dollars you can get your own, from me or from other digital ephemera people, a digital printable, people, and then you just cut it out yourself, and you can print it as many times as you want, and that's kind of the fun thing. So here's an example, and I just sit in front of the TV on a slow night watching something, and I cut out a whole sheet, and that's an example of your butterfly. So I'm going to turn the camera off now and cut out some more, and then I'm going to do a quick card making tutorial. Okay, I'm back, and here are my butterflies that I've cut out, and also some of the faux postage, which I didn't show now, but it's here. That's also the tickets I've cut out. You can see that there. And the postage is interesting. It's got the marks of a postage stamp, you know, like the pinholes that you can then separate. But of course, I don't have a pinhole cutter, so you can just use regular scissors if you're doing this at home, and it doesn't matter. Just cut it out however you want. If you've got pinking shears, that might work as well. But, you know, this is just, you know, probably for kids to do, or if you wanted to make your own cards. But this is just how to use the tools that you've got at home if you haven't done this kind of crafting before. So your local stationery store, and these are not white, I just grabbed the first ones I found. Your local office supply store or stationery store often has packs of cards making stuff. So it might be square or it might be A6 size, but if you buy it as a pack, it will have card and envelope like this. Let's open the right end. So this is a square card and a square envelope, and that's pre-folded. And you can generally buy a pack of maybe 10 cards and 10 envelopes, and that might be, in Australia, it might be about $5. I'm not sure what it would be for those of you overseas. And I want to give a special shout out, I forgot to mention earlier, a special shout out to the Thames Ditton Men's Tennis Club. So thanks guys, I really appreciate it, and I hope your kids enjoy the card making. So this is, as I said, pre-folded, comes with an envelope, and that's really, you know, reasonably cost effective. It might be about 60 cents. So what's that saying, about half that, 30p per a card set like that. The other thing you can do is buy packs of pre-cut card, or even A4 cardstock and cut it yourself. But if you don't have a guillotine or a paper trimmer, it might be hard. So I used to buy A4 cardstock on myself when I was first starting out, but I hated cutting it and I was often not quite straight. So then I started buying the A5 packs of card. And the card shop, stationery shop up the road from me where I was living at the time, had did a lot of wedding stationery, and they had instructions in there that showed people how to fold neatly to make their own stationery. So they would supply all the different layers of paper and stuff. And anyway, so what they would say is put down a ruler. I made a ruler if you've got one, but it doesn't have to be. And then you put the edge up, and then you fold over and put the other edge up. And then a lot of crafters will use these bone folders. If you don't have one of those, that's okay, because what you can do is use the back of a teaspoon, and what you do is you just smooth that down, and then you just flatten it like that. I have to be very careful not to put too much pressure on my left arm because it is still fractured, but that's my tip of the episode. You can use a teaspoon to get a perfectly folded and scored card. And if you're doing this at home with your kids, you don't need fancy bone folder. You have a teaspoon in the drawer. They've probably got a ruler for school, and that's how you can fold your cardstock perfectly. Crisp edges, fantastic. And I used to run a lot of card making classes, workshops. We just do, you know, craft classes at home, and the people I showed that trick to the people who didn't have bone folders, and they loved it. Saved them $10 or however much they were on not having to purchase. Now, with the fussy cuts, you could just stick a few down, get a few different colours. And that would be beautiful. That's from a different set of butterflies that I made. from the digital add-on set, but yeah, like you could do that, and then that would be a birthday card. It would be a get well card. It could even be a congratulations card. It doesn't take a lot, and all you need is a glue stick. I wouldn't use a wet glue. This is the 120 GSM paper. I wouldn't use a wet glue with that because I can show you some disasters I had with it. It got a bit wrinkly. So that's why I would use a glue stick, because it doesn't get too wet. So that is just one simple trick. But I'm going to show you how you can make it a little bit more exciting. This is one of my digital papers from my kit. We'll put some butterflies on top of that. Just find a different color. Maybe a blue. What do you think of that? It's very simple, isn't it? Now, I like to ink the edges of my papers with just stamping ink that we use for our stamp pads. And that's what I would normally do. But because we're doing basic, you don't have to do that. You could do it with a texter, or you could just leave it plain. So if we left it plain, it would you just glue it all together and it would look like that. But I'll show you what you can do with a texter to edge your card and elevate it just a little bit more. So these are craft markers, but you could do it with any kind of marker. And what I do is I used to do this a lot. I don't do it so much anymore. Just grab one of the markers. Now these ones have just a tip at one end and a brush tip at the other end, but you can use whichever kind of texture you've got. And then just run the edge of your texture along the edges. And what that does, it gets rid of the white edge where you've cut. And it may not look like much, but it just adds a little bit more finesse. Now, I mean, I'm just using that end because most people probably won't have brush markers, but if you did have a brush tip marker, it goes on a little bit wider and it's a little bit more noticeable. And if you've seen my crafting before, I'm all about, you know, shabby, messy, so that doesn't bother me. Right, so that's that. Now we're going to use the glue stick. Oh, actually, no, I do have one other thing I wanted to layer on. I've had this for ages. When we got some furniture from IKEA, it came in with craft, I don't know, risers or whatever, and I saved this, and every so often I use it, and I actually thought that the craft would go really well, the corrugated would go really well. So I wanted to, and you may have this in your own house from, you know, packaging material. I thought that the pink would go quite well with the corrugated natural color, and it would be a nice contrast to the back of the card as well. So I'm just going to tear around this, and I'm really big on torn edges. I don't think everything needs to be perfect. So I'm just going to tear this. And tearing's good as well for kids because you don't need to have a pair of scissors for everyone. So put that down. Doesn't matter if it's not perfect. So there's that. That will fit nicely there. Okay, so we're going to use the glue stick now. Now I would make sure you glue very nicely. In fact, I have a bit of paper that I normally put underneath. It's just my scrap paper, so it doesn't get on other things, but I glue all the way around the edges, all four, a little bit in the middle. Put that on there. Then I'm going to add on the butterflies or dragonflies or whatever printable you got. It's the pink one. Put the blue one. I didn't put glue on the edges of the wings because I knew that they were going to overlap. So put this on like this. I'm just going to tear a little bit more off this side. So that's how it would look. I feel that I'm going to run my pen around the texture around the edge of the card as well. And what this does, it helps define the edge. As I said, you can do this at home. Your kids can do this with their textures, or they don't have to do it at all. This is just my preference. So if there was no defined edge, it would look like that. And with the defined edge, it just looks like that. And now I'm just gonna put some glue stick on all over. And there you have it. A dimensional, layered card. Made at home, very simple. Cut out that, fussy cut those. And you can obviously do a lot of fussy cutting in advance. That's just made from, you know, remnants from packaging. And then whether or not you want to edge the paper and the cardstock is up to you. And that's how you can, and you could, as I said, you could do that with the dragonfly or the butterfly, fussy cuts. So that's one quick tutorial. Now, here's another one using the square card. And I'm going to use one of my postcards this time. Which one will I use? Now, as I mentioned previously, these flowers are all Australian native flowers called Banksias, and that's my kit's called butterflies and Banksias. Banksias and butterflies, so I'm going to use that Banksia there. So these on their own, if you print them on the heavier cardstock, you could actually just print that as is, maybe stick a little butterfly on there. And then you could actually write just on the back. I mean, this is a bit flimsy, but if you did it on the heavier cardstock, printed onto the 200 GSM, that would be a card on its own. And the same goes with the tags. So these are the shabby tags. These are designed so that you can actually put them on a card front as a embellishment in their own right. And again, you could put it on a bit of corrugated card or something like that. Or you can print them on thicker cardstock or even layer it on some cardstock. I just wonder if I had any handy. But just say you layered it on something like that and cut around it. And then punch a hole in it, put a bit of ribbon, and then you've made someone a bookmark. So you can put a little pocket on the front of your card. Maybe I'll do that next. Put a pocket on the front of your card, put the shabby tag in it, and then they can take that out and it can be a bookmark afterwards. So it could be someone's birthday present, and then you have the tags afterwards. And there's a whole set of them, different designs, flowers, birds, that kind of thing. So you can either use them as decoration or you can actually make them into something functional like a bookmark. It's really lovely, really. That's why I picked the designs. So I'm going to put the cardstock corrugated card on. We're going to do it a bit differently this time. We won't layer it in the same way. So rather than covering the whole base with the corrugated card, I just want a little bit of it. So I was just trying to decide whether I want a strip down one side, but I think it looks better running across the bottom. Actually, now that I've covered it in glue, I'm just going to tear it so it's actually even less. So it's more of an accent. And now, just going to overlap that fraction, but just there. But I might even put it on an angle. Maybe like that. Yeah. So, just again around the edges. A little bit in the middle. And glue sticks are great. And like every kid's got them because they use them for school, right? So there's your postcard. And I'm going to put, what colour? I think the pink is a bit much because of the pink and the red there. So I think I'm going to put blue butterfly. Checking if there's anything else I want to add, maybe a postage stamp. On the corner. The other thing to remember is you can resize your tags and digital printables. You can actually say print 2 to a page, or you could double-side them. I've got some that I have double-sided in the journaling kit. One of them is one of the pages is like a coffee stained or aged page, which I put in so that people could double side the other journaling pages. So like if you fold it in half, that's the back. So that's the double siding of that. So this is actually one of my tickets, which has the postage stamp on it, but I actually think I'm going to tear around the ticket bit and just add the postage stamp on itself, because the postage stamp on the ticket is smaller than my postage stamps. So maybe just do it like that. What do you think? Yeah, I think that works. So then we have a butterfly and Banksia postcard on the front of a card. And we could, for example, use our red texter, just to lightly edge. I used to edge in gold and silver metallic pens a lot, but I moved off that. Those pens ran out very quickly, but they do look quite effective if you use them. It's another quick card which comes with its own envelope, as I mentioned earlier. So it would just be a matter of writing inside it, and then you have the card to go with it. This one, you'd have to get your own card, but they're quite easy to come by, so that wouldn't take a lot. You can also, add little diamantes on the body of the butterfly, or flat back pearls. You could add a little bit of lace if you've got some. Just little things lying around the house. Doesn't take a lot, but yeah. That's those two. Now I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to use some cardstock to make a bookmark. I think I will use one of my florals. Which one will we use? I like the tulip one. I'll use that. So, and just once again use the glue stick all over. then just line it up nearly just with the edge of the cardstock. And you realise that you haven't actually glued it to the edge, so you do that. Then you find your scissors, which are covered up with all the paper now, and you just cut around it. You cut the corners off. And then you glue it again. This time you can actually glue straight onto the card if you cut it out to the right shape. So, what do you do now? Well, you get a hole punch, and I'm missing my good hole punch. We moved house during lockdown, and a lot of my stuff is still in storage because we'll be moving again soon. But in the meantime, I have purchased a really dodgy ass hole punch from the stationery supplier, so it may not go in quite the right spot. I'll do my best. You just punch up that bit there. Pretty close. Okay, so then I have a little bit of ribbon. Hopefully this one will work. Might not be long enough, but we'll give it a go. And I buy packs of ribbon remnants. And what I do is, you know, those the stationery shop I mentioned that does wedding stationery, they might have people buy X number of meters for their wedding stationery, and then they might have a meter left or a meter and a half left of that type of ribbon. So I used to just go and buy those leftover packs. You know, it might be $1 for 3 meters or something. It's not enough for a full wedding stationery kit, but it's enough for me to decorate some cards with, because I don't need to make 150 all the same. So I have a lot of little offcuts of ribbon, which is great for crafting. Anyway, so there is your shabby tag bookmark. Now at this point you could just leave it like that. I would again just, and again this is entirely my preference, you can do whatever you want, or as maker Tim Holt says, you do you, no judgment. I just like to get rid of the white edges. And I do have other crafting tools that I would normally use, but I'm just showing how you do it at home with what you've got. So that is a beautiful little bookmark that someone can use. It's not too big, it's not bulky, but the ribbon that would stick out the top of a book. And then how I would present this for someone is, we'll go grab another card. Oh, one thing I was going to say is I've got these in loose containers at the moment, but a good way to store, I find, a good way to store all your fussy cuts once you've cut them so you don't lose them, is just little Ziploc lunch bags or freezer bags. And that way you can see them easily. This is just a different shape. This is cogs and gears for my steampunk designs. But you can see them, but you don't lose them. And that's really important once you've spent all that time physically cutting stuff out. So we'll go and grab another card. Now, I'm going to, first of all, and so what I'm going to do is, I'm going to use one of my other papers to back it. So I think this one, this is pretty, maybe this side. just show where I'm going to trim. Cut it out. And then I'm actually going to trim it even more because that's where the white edge is from the printer. I don't really know the mechanics of it, but for some reason, if you print with a laser printer, you get a white border. But if you print with an inkjet printer, you get, it goes all the way to the edge. It seems like discrimination to me, but you know, that's what it is. All right, so that's, it opens. So, yeah. So you can use your glue stick again. I'm actually going to use double-sided tape this time, just because that's my preference, but honestly, your glue stick works fine, as you've seen. I just find this works better for me. And you can get double-sided tape at office supplies, craft stores, all kinds of places. And there's some that are just like on a sticky tape roll, this kind of thing. And as you peel it off, it's sticky on both sides. Those ones are really convenient, but they're also very expensive. Whereas this one, this kind, I can get 6 for $10. So what's that, £5 or something, from the craft shows. So it's obviously a lot cheaper. So if you kids are interested in doing a lot of crafting, get some of this. You don't have to get 6 rolls. That's just the craft show special. But you know, I find it a bit less messy than, a bit more reliable than the glue stick. I mean, you saw how I had to keep re-gluing that other bit. That's just because I hadn't spread it all the way, and you know, at least I know with double-sided tape I can actually see where I've stuck it down, even if I'm not great at it, as you can see. I generally do along the sides, and sometimes I put a little bit in the middle if it's a bigger piece like this, just to make sure it all sticks down. Doesn't matter if it overlaps really. It's not very exciting, so I apologize for that. But yes, so that's our base page. I hope that's right. Yeah, okay. Now with this one, I'm going to make a pocket. Just checking if that's the right size I want. I think so, yeah. So this is our tag. So we only really need it to be maybe that size. Double that. And cut it off there. And we can even do it that way. Yeah, so that looks like it goes that way. And then fold up the bottom. Yeah. All right, so what I'll do is I'm going to fold in the sides a little bit. And remember, we can use our spoon to make the folds neat. And the other side. And fold up the bottom. Just make sure that our tag will fit. We can actually fold it up a little bit more than that. It is not very straight at all, but that's okay. Fold that up there. Looks a bit better, I guess. Let's So that would go in there like that. Yep, okay, so how we do this is we unfold that there now. Then we cut off these corners here to miter them. Then we use double-sided tape. The way we tape it is not at the edge there. I guess we can. No, we tape it along the base. Or you can use glue. But what we really are after is as close to that, the fold, as possible. I guess I can cut that a little bit more so that it sticks down without getting caught. That one there. Actually, that goes last. The sides go in first, and then the bottom one goes over the top. So, I mean, it looks a little bit fiddly, and apologies because I said this was going to be simple, and this is a little bit more complicated, but this one is for Claire and Gina. So we've moved on from the Thames Ditton Tennis Club. You guys got the butterflies. So for Claire and Gina, we're doing the tag bookmarks. And if you're using glue, that's fine. If you're using the tape and it goes over, just cut it off. Or you can fold it back like I sometimes do. You might have seen me do that. Okay, so we tape that down. Oh, I've done that wrong. I've done that wrong. I put the tape on the wrong side. Fortunately, with this type of paper, the tape comes off quite easily. So I'll be back in a minute. Right, so now we're back, and after I've had to remake it, but what I did was put the tape on the wrong side. You're not supposed to tape the inside, you're supposed to tape the outside, or glue the outside, and that's because we're sticking the pocket down, and I will show you how we do that. So the bit where I taped in there, ignore that. That's for a different style of thing altogether, and we're not doing that today. But what we are doing is a pocket that goes on the front so that you can use your tag as a bookmark, as a gift. And you don't have to do this. You can actually use your tag on the front as just a decorative element. And I do that all the time as well. But I was asked about how to use the tags as bookmarks, so that's what I'm showing you. So now one thing I would do is, and this is entirely optional, I happen to have a circle punch. So what I like to do for pockets is make what's called a thumb hole, or referred to as a thumb hole. So you do not have to do this at all. This is fine as is. This is just a little trick, optional extra, and I put the punch upside down so I can actually see what I'm doing. And look, some people have actually marked their punches. I haven't done that. I'm not that organized yet. And what you do is you just punch a half hole like that. But you don't have to do that at all. Don't feel obliged. Now, I'm just going to put that about halfway, and I'm just checking that I'm still in the right position with my card. Haven't turned it upside down. And I do try to clear my workspace as I go, otherwise it gets incredibly messy, as you can see. So maybe at a little bit of an angle. So we'll do that there, like that. And so I taped down the sides and the base, and now I've just pushed that down. And look at this. Our tag bookmark goes there. And what I'm going to do is put something on the front just to decorate it a little bit. Let me just see what I've got. Okay, yeah, I've got something that matches the paper. This is a label shape, and I've got some of those from Fussy Cuts, and I'm going to put one of those just here, just to make it stand out a little bit. Yep. Back to the glue stick. And if you wanted to go like extra next level, I haven't cut any out in the right size, but I do have that same butterfly on the sheet of Fussy Cuts, and you could cut one out that size and then put it on top and then fold the wings up so it looked dimensional. Probably do that now anyway. Yeah, let's do that now. So we'll just glue the middle of it, the body, and then a little bit other side onto the wings. There you go. There is a, despite my messing up the pocket, it is quite easy. It's a rectangle. You fold in the sides, you fold at the bottom, cut the corners, and then you have to stick the folded bits, not the inside, and then you make a little pocket. And that's just one bit of paper. And then that's just optional label, and then the butterfly on top. Quite quick. That was quick. Backing that onto cardboard with a little bit of ribbon remnant in a bronze ribbon, and then you've got it. That is a beautiful birthday card. It could be an anniversary card, whatever you want. And of course you've got the matching envelope, and I like to decorate my envelopes just so it matches the card. So I would put maybe another one of those little labels, you know, in the pink maybe, or even a plain label. I've got some of the plain labels, so you could write someone's address on the front. I don't know if I've got any plain ones, but yeah, something like that, so that it ties it all together. Anyway, that's my quick tutorial showing how to cut out fussy cuts, how to use them, how to use just household items like a spoon to fold things, how to use a ruler to get your nice crease, how to layer things using household things like corrugated card, and then how to make a little pocket so that you've got a beautiful bookmark tag. Now, I just stopped the camera and made a couple more things to show you before we finish up. So I made another square card from the same pack, and it's very similar, but I've included a dragonfly this time, and I also just used a pink square to make the colors pop. And I've used a couple of the flat back pearls that I mentioned to just add a bit of dimension. And this time I tore around the edge. I actually used what's called a tearing ruler. Just use that to help it be a straight line, but it's a decal edge. So that's very similar, can go with that set. Now, I wanted some gift cards. These don't need an envelope. They're very simple to make. An A5 card, you just cut it into 3, and then you can fold it in half, each one in half. That's a gift card. Square of paper in a different color. Bit of the corrugated card that we had. This one's just a dragonfly in the center. This one's a dragonfly and a butterfly. Now on the dragonfly, because dragonfly wings are iridescent, I've just used a little bit of this stuff called glossy accents. You can find it in shops around, but you don't need that. That was just to show you how to make it a little bit sparkly. And on this one, I've used a flat back gem for the dragonfly head, and I've used flat back pearls for the butterfly wings. And again, I've gone over the edges with the butterfly wings because you'd stick it actually onto a present. You just like use a loop of sticky tape and you can put that onto a present. That's a really quick and easy card. And then also from an A5 card cut into 3, I've made some bookmarks. This one, I've just left it plain. Look, I've used some ink on these ones. That's what's called washi tape. It's this type of Japanese sticky tape, but it's very decorative. And then that's just an off-card of card I've used from some card making. And then 2 dragonflies and some ribbon. I punched a hole myself, just with a hole punch. This one, I've cut the edges a bit like a tag. So you cut one and then you flip it over and then you use that as a template to cut the other. Use the corrugated cardstock, a bit of ribbon and a butterfly in the middle. I think that looks really effective. And then ribbon. And this one is actually a bit of wrapping paper from a birthday present, a little bit of a magazine page, and then a butterfly, a dragonfly on top. And I've actually rounded the corners with a corner rounder, just so that to show you a different style. But you could easily just have left the edges straight like that. I was just trying to do 3 different types, and that's just from one bit of A5 card. From an A4 bit of paper, you could make 3 bookmarks, 3 gift tags, and 3 gift cards, and have a lot of fun. So crafting with kids is really easy. Well, can get messy, but you know. Anyway, just thought I'd show you those without having to do the tutorial. It's the same techniques that we've already done. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Excuse my mess. That's just what happens when you do a bit of crafting. Hope that helps you. Thanks for buying my digital printables, and let me know what you think. Like, comment, and subscribe. Look forward to catching up with you again soon.